Welcome back to Nonstop Recap. Today we'll be going over the 2005 comedy Wedding Crashers. We're introduced to John and Jeremy in the middle of a contentious divorce mediation, which they eventually settle by convincing the divorcees to make the most of their newfound freedom. Later, Jeremy's secretary Janice brings him a new sleeping bag for John's annual birthday sleepover. Janice offers to set Jeremy up with a nice woman, but Jeremy rants about his strong opposition to conventional dating. Jeremy then calls John into his office and they celebrate the start of wedding crashing season. The pair attend a Jewish wedding ceremony under assumed names, where John catches the attention of a beautiful woman by pretending to cry, while Jeremy makes eyes at a woman a few rows ahead of him. They then join the wedding guests in celebration, in between doing magic tricks for the children and toasting the newlyweds. John and Jeremy each dance with their woman of choice, and this leads into a greater montage of numerous wedding crashes over the coming weeks. They party hard, winning over the families of the newlyweds, dancing with beautiful women, filling themselves with cake, and drinking heavily before reaching their end game, bringing countless women to bed. At the end of the season, John ruins one of his dates when he calls a woman by the wrong name. He later confesses to Jeremy that he's starting to have doubts about their lifestyle. Back at the office, Jeremy informs John of a high-profile wedding coming up. John's uninterested, exhausted from the busy wedding season they just concluded. But he gives in when Jeremy makes an appeal to the sacred rules of wedding crashing, handed down by the legendary Chaz Reinhold. At the church, they watch as U.S. Secretary William Cleary, father of the bride, meets with John McCain. John almost immediately sets his eyes on Cleary's daughter, Claire. John devises alter egos tied to a dead relative just before the procession starts, giving Jeremy his first glimpse of Claire's sister, Gloria. Claire then tries to contain her laughter as the bride and groom exchange cliched, pun-laden vows. John approaches Claire at the reception, impressed by her guessing the contents of the wedding gifts. When Claire's mother, Kathleen, steals her away for wedding photos, John and Jeremy decide to win over the family through the kids. Jeremy creates a balloon bicycle for an ornery child, while John dances with the flower girl. Kathleen steals John for a dance, and Gloria approaches Jeremy for the same. As their dances finish, Kathleen informs John that she and Cleary aren't faithful to each other. John then works his magic on Cleary, winning him over instantly. Meanwhile, Jeremy intrigues Gloria by feigning a troubled past. Claire tells Cleary that the bride needs him, giving her a chance to show John the toast she's prepared. He warns her that it's too mean and she should speak from the heart, but she decides to go with it anyway. Claire's toast bombs, but she recovers by regaling the crowd with John's definition of true love, moving the bride to tears. Meanwhile, Jeremy and Gloria get dressed after hooking up on the beach, and she tells him that it was her first time before immediately declaring her love for him. John tries to speak more with Claire, but she's dragged away by her hilariously named boyfriend, Sack Lodge. Jeremy tells John they need to leave pronto so he can get away with Gloria, but John's not done with Claire. When Gloria invites them back to her family's place for a weekend excursion, John encourages her in spite of Jeremy's protests. She runs to ask Cleary's permission to invite them and throws a literal tantrum until he gives in. They take a boat to Cleary's shoreside estate, where Cleary and Sack suggest a game of touch football. Sack turns out to be highly competitive and mildly psychotic, and his constant unnecessary roughness knocks Jeremy out of the game. Cleary's artist son Todd refuses to step in, so Cleary eventually suggests that they break for daiquiris. As Gloria helps Jeremy inside, Kathleen makes a pass at John. While tending to his wounds, Gloria wildly tries to make love to Jeremy again. He rejects her, and she quickly turns violent until Jeremy says he simply wants to get to know her better. She calms down, but threateningly tells him never to leave her. When they go downstairs, Cleary confronts Jeremy and warns him not to treat Gloria like a one-night stand. At dinner, Jeremy gives John a bottle of eye drops, which John uses to poison Sack's drink during the mealtime prayer. Sack mentions over dinner that he and Claire should be getting married soon, a union that Claire's father seems more excited about than she does. As Sack grows suspicious of how John and Jeremy are connected to the family, Gloria gives Jeremy a handy-dandy under the table. Shortly after she finishes, Sack starts to feel sick and excuses himself from dinner. Jeremy then tries to include Todd in the dinner conversation, but he gets angry and leaves when Grandma Mary calls him a homo. Claire decides to go outside for some air, and John decides to go with her. As he's changing shoes, Kathleen enters his room and exposes herself, saying she won't let him leave until he feels her implants. He obliges, and she calls him a pervert before walking out. John tries to tell Jeremy about it, but they get into an argument over how hard the day has been on Jeremy. John talks to Claire outside, and it becomes increasingly clear that they have real chemistry, but they're interrupted when Cleary tells Claire to check on Sack. Claire finds Sack in the bathroom and tries to be comforting, but he's dismissive and snaps at her. Later that night, Jeremy wakes to find Gloria tying him to the bed. She gags him with his own sock and takes advantage of him. Meanwhile, John tiptoes down to Claire's room and listens to see if she's awake. She hears something and goes to check, but John's already back in his room. She checks on him as well, but hears nothing. All the while, Sack spends his night on the bathroom floor getting sick in the toilet. Jeremy is again woken up, this time by Todd. He thinks he and Jeremy share a connection and has even made a naturist painting of him. Jeremy denies it and tells Todd to hide in the closet when he senses movement in the hall. Cleary comes in and starts to speak with Jeremy about Todd, but leaves when he sees the painting. At breakfast the next morning, Jeremy tells John that he's had enough and he's going home. John gets Jeremy to stay, however, with an appeal to Chaz Reinhold's rules of crashing. Meanwhile, Sack calls a friend and it's revealed that he's been cheating on Claire. He then has his friend hire a private detective to get the real scoop on John and Jeremy. Sack is still sick, however, and stays behind while the Cleary family goes sailing. Cleary asks John to man the sails, but he doesn't know what he's doing and needs Claire to step in. He tells Claire they should hit the beach together when they get back to shore, but Sack is waiting for them and steals the guys to go quail hunting. On the hunt, he takes aim to shoot at John, but John falls out of his eye line and in the shot hits Jeremy instead. As Gloria removes the buckshot, John escapes to take a scenic bike ride with Claire. Sack asks the family servant Randolph where Claire has gone and learns that she's with John. At the beach, John opens up about being unhappy with the direction his life has taken. Claire appears to have similar feelings about her relationship with Sack, and they kiss. At lunch, a jealous Sack announces his engagement to Claire without actually proposing, and Claire says she needs a minute alone. Jeremy tells John it's time to go home, but John says that he's in love and needs to tell her. Jeremy goes to end things with Gloria, but he's oddly intrigued when she tells him she was lying about losing her virginity. Over a drink with the family priest, Jeremy admits that he's starting to feel a deranged connection with Gloria. Meanwhile, John finds Claire on a swing outside and tells her not to marry Sack. Inside, Sack gets a phone call from his friend about the results of the investigation into John and Jeremy. Just as John is about to tell Claire the truth about his identity, Grandma Mary chases Jeremy out of the house with a gun. Sack emerges and assaults John before telling Claire about John's history of wedding seductions. Claire is crushed, but Gloria seems even more titillated by Jeremy than she was before. Cleary tells the two to leave on the next ferry out. Months later, Jeremy hides a dirty phone call with Gloria from John before chastising John for his obsessive attempts to get in touch with Claire. But John has a new plan to crash Claire's upcoming engagement party by sneaking in as waitstaff. That night, John shows up to the party and Randolph lets him in through the back. but Jeremy doesn't show. As John watches Claire dance with her father, he's discovered by Sack and dragged out of the party. Sack pummels him and threatens to kill him if he ever makes a move on Claire again. John goes over to Jeremy's where he finds Jeremy and Gloria with their pants down. He confronts Jeremy about hiding their ongoing relationship, but Jeremy tells him that he's in love with her. John accuses him of betrayal and storms off. A montage shows all three main characters struggling. Jeremy repeatedly tries to get a hold of John, but he doesn't respond. Claire appears trapped by her ongoing wedding plans and ignored by Sack. And John drunkenly crashes weddings alone. The one bright moment is that Jeremy decides he's ready to marry Gloria. While browsing flower arrangements, Claire tells her father it seems too soon for Gloria and Jeremy to get married. When he says that the heart sometimes simply knows what it wants, Claire begins to cry. He tries to assure her that everything's going to be okay. Jeremy goes to visit John on his birthday, and John tries to fake happiness by lying that he's been crashing weddings with Chaz. Jeremy and John make up, but John gets angry when Jeremy announces his engagement and kicks him out. He then goes to visit Chaz Reinhold, who turns out to be an emotionally stunted loser who lives with his mother. When it's revealed that he somehow still makes it with beautiful women, Chaz confides that he's been crashing funerals and invites John to come with him. John and Chaz attend a funeral with beautiful women on their arms, but John is visibly uncomfortable. When he sees the widow, however, he becomes contemplative. He heads to Jeremy's wedding where he inadvertently causes a scene when the door closes loudly behind him. He's nearly thrown out, but Jeremy announces him to be the best man. He apologizes for his side of their feud and takes his spot at Jeremy's side. But when he repeatedly tries to speak with Claire during the ceremony, she walks away and he loudly tells her that he always wanted to be honest with her. He tells her about the widow at the funeral and that he's not ready to be the person who loses the one they love most. Sack tries to belittle John's speech, but Claire tells Sack that she can't marry him. When her father takes her side, Sack yells at Claire before trying to attack John, only to get decked out by Jeremy. Gloria passionately kisses Jeremy as John goes to kiss Claire, and they all ride off together after the ceremony. Chaz Reinhold stands by to cheer them on, catching Todd's eye in the process. When the happy couples start to get hungry, they all decide to crash a wedding together. Thanks for watching Nonstop Recap.